Trademark. I am Dave.
And I am Sean. This is Barstools and Bandtalk. And I will say, this is almost like my birthday of last year, where it just kept going on and on and on. It went on at Dolan's. It went on at the Ale House. It went on at O'Leary's. It was the month of birthdays, and Hurricane Dorian tried to put a crank in that, but it didn't. And I got to tell you, I am so friggin' excited about this interview. I don't know if you want to chime in here, Dave, before I get all giddy with glee.
It's his birthday today. It's his birthday today. Anyhow, listen, this has been coming for a long time. We've been working on this interview probably for about a month and a half, 2 months. And I knew it was important to you, and I'm excited. And I meet you because he's a great hero of ours. I'm going to let you bring him on. You talk about him, and we're just going to have a lot of fun here tonight.
Yeah, Peter Delmont and Ian Fancy and I used to listen to this band and this man all the time. No apologies. We grew up in the hair metal genre. Still don't apologize for it. Some guys like their metal, and that's great. Some guys like their, new wave of heavy metal, and that's great. I loved all that stuff. But for me, it was that stuff that was going on out in L.A. And this is a guy who I always thought just had one of those voices that just loved it. And when he kind of started branching out and doing different things, you really get to find out that he wasn't just a screamer. He and a long history. So without further ado, I am super, super, super stoked to have Mr. Ron Keel with us tonight on my birthday.
Welcome, Ron. How are you, my friend?
I am doing fantastic. The Metal Cowboy. Duty. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm on my favorite bar stool, ready for some band talk.
Thank you so much. So
you're
in the intro,
yeah, you get a mug, and you get a mug.
Oh, yeah, you're getting a mug.
Nice.
No question. In the intro, Ron, and it's and I don't want to date anybody here. I don't want to date me. I don't want to date you. But I grew up. I was a hair metal guy. People like metal. I didn't mind metal, but there's a whole group that came out, and obviously you had a history before Keel, but you guys were one of those bands that were just kind of always, bobbing out there, doing different things. You're right place, right time, had some success, and they're a band that myself and my buddies and a lot of people here in the East Coast really dug. And you guys probably never got out here, did you?
We had a lot of dreams come true, man. Before we get started, Sean, by the way, I don't know when you're launching this, but everybody wish Sean McKenna a very happy birthday. He's got nothing better to do on his birthday than listen to me talk about me. But, man, I appreciate the opportunity to spend your birthday with you. Hope you're having a good one. This won't take long. Now, did it? Man, we had a great ride back in the 80s, and I don't mind being dated. I'm very proud at this stage of the game to be one of the elder statesmen, so to speak. I'm pushing 60 and very proud that I've lasted this long and been able to keep my game at a pretty high level for 40 years now, since the first time I heard myself on the radio back in 1980. It's been 40 years, wow. And it's been one hell of a ride. I'm very thankful for all the accomplishments, and I still keep believing that the best is yet to come.
Well, and I mean, so much, there's the Final Frontier is now my absolutely wore out. I was telling Dwayne Miller, I feel like owing him some royalties because there's different licks on there. That's one of those.
Great story about that, real quick, Sean, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Since you're a
absolutely.
drummer, right? And you're talking about the licks on Final Frontier album. Dwayne was, 19, maybe 20 years old when he cut that record. Gene Simmons is producing the album. And it was Dwayne's first album experience, first time he'd ever been in a signed act. Of course, he's 19, 20 years old. He just joined the band the previous, probably about a year before that. And we had done the Right to Rock tour, but we go into the studio to cut the Final Frontier. And Dwayne cut the entire album twice in one day with just a click track, no instruments accompanying him. He played the entire album once in the main studio room, top to bottom, every song on the record. Then we moved the drum kit upstairs to this big ambient kind of cathedral, like church kind of room, where you get this massive ambience. So that's where we got drum sounds for like Here Today, Gone Tomorrow. And Dwayne did the album all by himself with a click track twice in one day.
Wow.
Now that's a badass right there. And he's still, at this point, 35 years later, he's still at the top of his game. And and playing great. Every time we get together, like we did earlier this year on the Monsters of Rock cruise, just to feel that guy and his groove behind me always fires me up, and a great human being as well, and as well as a fantastic harmony singer, friend, and bandmate.
Oh, wow.
Well, and you know, that album for me, it's really funny. There's little gems that I'll go back and I'll listen to it and I go like, and now that I kind of know him through social media, I'll ask him questions. You don't pick up on them until you start listening to it, and it's like, that freaking bugger could play, man. He could play. No two
Yeah, he
ifs,
was
ands, or
amazing.
buts.
One of the most underrated drummers of the era, and I do believe that the fact that he's just such a nice, down-to-earth guy, and not a, you know, character has a lot to do with it. But I think that certainly underrated with his place in 80s hard rock history, and still making great music today with Deirdre, the band that he's in, an original project based out of Phoenix, Arizona. Highly recommend you check out Deirdre and her band, deirdremusic.com. Dwayne Miller's the drummer in that band, and a great guy. But we're not here to talk about Dwayne, are we? No,
No, we're here to talk about Ron
Let's talk
Keel.
about Dwayne. Enough about Dwayne. Let's talk about Dwayne.
But, you know, to your point though, Ron, I mean, it's important. We've talked about this a number of times with a number of different artists. It's important to find the right guy who's got all, you know, all the licks and all the chops and all, you know, the absolute great musicians you can find. But it's also important to be on the road with somebody 24/7 who is not a dick. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? You need to live
Absolutely.
with that guy, right? So
that is my criteria at this stage of the game, and I've been really blessed throughout my career to have worked with so many great people that are still my friends. The guys in Keel, 35 years later, Mark Ferrari, Brian J., Dwayne Miller, and I are still like a family, like a brotherhood, and
awesome.
very, very close. And we really care about each other. And there's just their character is as strong as their musicianship, as well as the guys in the Ron Keel Band that I've been sharing the road and the studio and life with for over 5 years now, 6 years, working with Gino Arce, my bass player. He's been with me 22 years, actually.
Wow.
He's the bass player at Keel as well. DC Cawthorn, Dave DC Cawthorn on lead guitar is my Joe Perry. I mean, he's the guy. I mean, I always wanted that guitar partner like Tyler and Perry or Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, that guy that would be my counterpoint on stage and off. Dave is all that and more. And two South Dakota Hall of Famers, the Rev on drums and Scott Schmidt on keyboards. These guys have been through hell and back with me for the past 5 years, and it shows in the music, the 2 albums that we've done, the 700 shows or more that we've done together, and we're still out here pounding the road. And a new album on High Vol Music this year called South by South Dakota, which we're very proud of. And we've been able to do some shows this year, the Sturgis Rally, 5 headline shows at the rally, and the Sioux Empire Fair. We've had shows in 3 or 4 states. I know that's not much compared to previous years, but in 2020, I'll take whatever I can get.
Amen, brother.
Yeah,
Amen.
yeah. 2020, we'll press the reset button there.
Mm-hmm.
So Douglas Franklin from RFL kind of he clued me into some of the stuff, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not saying I lost touch with what you were doing, but you know, you kind of go on to other things. Douglas sent me your stuff, and I was like, holy freaking crap! Like,
Right
you know,
on.
you keep bringing it, and killer band, killer tunes. Where do you find some of the inspiration for what you guys are writing and kicking out there right now?
I'm inspired by life itself, man. I had learned some hard lessons early on in my career, and one of those that sticks with me to this day was when I was 19 years old, and our keyboard player in this band in Nashville, Tennessee, his name was Kevin. He was 23. He was the eldest guy in the band, and he was the musical director, and a sweet, sweet guy, and I was really green. He got me in the band. I was the lead guitar player, not even the lead singer. And 3 black guys, 2 white guys. We did everything from Motown style. It was all original, but it was a lot of Motown and funk. And then we do everything from that to metal and everything in between. Very amazing creative environment where we could write and perform and just play anything we wanted to play. And Kevin was the guy who believed in me, said, this kid's got it. He's going to be a star someday. He got me in the band. And then I watched him die at rehearsal one night. He just bent over dead on his Hammond B3. It was a cerebral hemorrhage and a heart attack simultaneously. and it was not drug related. He was totally clean, no drugs. It was a hereditary disease he didn't even know he had. But I watched him die that night, and now 40 years later, it's still that memory is burned into my heart, soul, and brain. He taught me at that moment that this could be your last song. Play it like you mean it. Play it like it's the last song you'll ever play. And I've followed that advice or guidance my entire career. I do every day. I'm on a one-day contract as far as I'm concerned. Nothing is guaranteed. None of us are guaranteed tomorrow. So I live every day to the fullest. I find inspiration everywhere, in my heart, in the world around me, in the people that I experience and interact with. And I love to create. I love to write and create music. I just love to also to sing and perform music. The new album is all covers, which was a great therapeutic effort for us, because we didn't even know we were being recorded when we were in the studio doing last year's Fight Like a Band album. That's an all original album that we released last year. We were in the studio cutting those tracks, and we'd go in the morning and have a cup of coffee and warm up, get a headphone mix, and kind of just get comfortable with the environment. And we would warm up on some of our favorite Southern rock classics. The first song we cut was Flirting with Disaster by Molly Hatchet. And I didn't even know we were cutting the song. We were just jamming. We just played the song top to bottom. Okay, headphone mix sounds good. Now let's get to work. And we went on with recording the basic tracks for Fight Like a Band. At the end of the day, we're kind of burned out, and we'd have a couple of cocktails. And then we'd go through another couple of songs, whether it was 38 Special, Rockin' Into the Night. And I think after 3 days of this, we had 4 or 5 tunes that we'd warmed up with or wound down with. My producer, Mike Dresch, said, I've been recording this stuff, right? And I had no idea. So I asked him to play it back for me. And when I heard it, I realized that we had something very, very special. We had 5 guys in the studio playing music, having fun, playing songs we loved, and we didn't even know we were being recorded. So in that moment, there's a real magic, organic element that you can't get if you're going in with a script and a game plan and an agenda and a budget and a schedule and all that. It was really special, and we had some songs that we wanted to add to that collection. I realized at that time, we've got the makings of a great Southern rock tribute album. And we went ahead and cut, of course, we had to add an Allman Brothers song and a Skinner song and so forth. And so we ended up with a great collection of Southern rock classics, which are some of the greatest songs ever written and a big part of the soundtrack of my life. And I'm very proud that South by South Dakota, that's the name of the album. I'm very proud that will be part of the soundtrack of 2020. 10 years from now, we'll look back on this year and what happened this year, what we all went through.
That's right.
What we've all been through. And that music has been, in a lot of ways, comfort food for the soul and for the ears for us and for a lot of the fans that have bought it. And the response has been incredible. When I decided, we had the album done, and we had a release date of April 24th set. And all of a sudden, the COVID-19 pandemic hits. And it was a very, not a difficult decision to go ahead and release the album, but a lot of bands and artists kind of put their albums on the shelf. I just talked to Glenn Hughes from the Dead Daisies, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, whatever. Glenn Hughes was on my radio show a couple of weeks ago, and they did an album in November of last year, decided not to release it because they can't tour in 2020. So that album's going to sit on a shelf for over a year between the time they recorded it and the time they release it. I wanted to go ahead and put this music out because I felt that it was good medicine for 2020. We all need to be entertained and to hear and experience new music. My only concern was that with millions of people struggling financially, how do I go on shows like this and radio and TV and all the other media and promote the album and ask people to shell out their hard-earned money for the new album? It was very difficult for me to try and sell it. I would love to give it away, but what we did was we made it as economical as possible and did a beautiful package. The artwork, the photography, the 8-panel fold-out digipack with a free poster, a fold-out poster that's autographed, included in the CD packaging. So we really went all out on the packaging. Thanks to Highball Music, they put their money where my music is, and they sprung for this package, which is really beautiful. And for $15.98, you get the CD and a free sticker and a free autograph poster. So all that for $15.98. Awesome. Was the best we could do, and I really appreciate the response that we've had. A lot of 80s Keel fans have bought the record and are enjoying it. A lot of the new fans that we've built over the last 5 years are embracing what the album's all about, and I'm really proud of it. It's always going to be, like I said, the soundtrack of 2020 for me. Of course, we're writing and getting ready to record and release new music next year, but this was a perfect record for 2020. I highly encourage everybody to check it out on Spotify and hopefully buy a copy of the CD. I'll sign it for you at ronkeel.com.
You stole my thunder. I was going to go right there because I was on your website today. It is remarkable, Ron. I don't mind telling you, like, it's such a well put together website, and you can find everything very easily. There's a couple some sample videos that are on there. You have a cool thing you're doing. It's a kind of a subscription-based program where you can actually be part of it's like an interactive fan club, I guess is what you call it.
Exactly, and thanks for bringing that up, Dave. I was way ahead of the curve, luckily, I guess, because 4 years ago now, almost 4 years ago, my wife, Renee, was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. And the day you get that diagnosis, everything changes. All of a sudden, your focus totally turns in another direction. And the priority then, once we got the diagnosis, was for me to do the best I could to take care of her during chemotherapy, radiation, 9 surgeries. And the tumor grew, I think it doubled in size in 2 weeks. So it was a pretty drastic situation. Just when I had rebranded this thing as the Ron Keel Band, we had a different name in our previous incarnation. Same guys, same mission, same direction, all that. But I rebranded the band as Ron Keel Band, and we had a renewed belief in ourselves and a lot of momentum going into 2017. And I had to tell the guys in the band that I'm not going to be able to tour this year. I'm going to have to stay home and take care of Renee and be here for her through all that chemo and radiation and all that. So immediately when that happened, I realized, of course, you don't know what the future holds. No. I know that I have to continue being Ron Keel. I have to keep entertaining people and interacting with my fans, keep releasing and singing and performing and entertaining and interacting. How can I do that online and work from home while I'm taking care of her? So I found this platform. It's called Patreon for creators, artists, writers, podcasters, and so forth. And I built my page at patreon.com/Ron Keel. And I started to upload and share content that you can't get on Facebook or YouTube. Live online chat. I get on with the fans all the time and interact with them like we're doing now on a Zoom call. Guitar lessons, voice lessons, songwriting workshops, the old Keel videos. If you want to see the first show Keel ever did, it's on Patreon. You want to hear my Black Sabbath demo? It's on Patreon.
I was going to go there next. I wanted to go there next. I wanted to ask what the Black Sabbath thing, but okay.
I share all that with my paying customers. I don't do a whole lot of Facebook Live unless it's the Facebook group. Right. Which you can join if you're a member at patreon.com/Ron Keel. It's only for a basic membership. It's $21 a year for a basic membership. That gets you the podcast, the radio show on demand, the interactive live chat, and some other features. All access is $6.99 a month, and those people get everything: merch discounts, VIP access at shows. When we play Kansas City this Saturday night, all my Patreon subscribers, they're going to come to sound check. They're going to have dinner with me. We're going to be, it's a real interactive, it's a family, it's a community, and it's my own way to entertain people online. So when COVID-19 hit earlier this year, I already had that in place. Wow. We already had gotten in the habit of sanitizing everything, because when you're going through cancer, you have a serious risk of infection, and your immunity, your immune system is compromised. So we were already wiping down the doorknobs, and we have a cabinet full of surgical masks already when the pandemic hit. We were as prepared, I think, as anybody could be for something like this, with the ability to stay safe, to stay sanitary, and for me to get online and interact with my fans at patreon.com/Ron Keel. Now, it's $6.99 a month. I get it. It's less than Netflix, but you know, it's the fact is, if you were standing next to me at a bar that I just got done singing, and I'm at the bar with you, and I order a beer and a shot, you'd say, "Oh no, put that on my tab." And the fans would, I mean, I can't get away from the bar for the fans buying me a shot. This is your way to buy me a virtual shot and a beer for $6.99 a month, and you get all the cool stuff, everything that I do, unreleased music, video clips, just literally tons of great content. I over-deliver on that. And the subscriptions, the money that I've generated from that platform has not only kept us, you know, the revenue is very much appreciated, but it also, I reinvest that into the band and the project, and the fans financed our live stream concert. Last month, we did a Streaming for Vengeance live online full production show. This was not a living room concert. This was a big production with smoke and lights and the whole band rocking out hard. And the fans financed all that with the revenue that I made from patreon.com/Ron Keel. So I put all that money back into the product and into the presentation. So thanks for mentioning that.
Well, thank you for just, I don't know. I feel pretty inspired myself. Here, quick question. How's your wife now?
She's great, man. She's been, they don't call it cancer-free. They call it no NED, no evidence of disease. But she's fine. Right. She's healthy. We are confident that she's going to be fine in the long run. And we credit the Sanford medical team here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, for her survival. We moved here from Las Vegas 5 years ago, and I had never been to South Dakota. This is my backyard here, by the way, that you see.
It really is? Wow.
No, that's a virtual background. That's some high-tech shit right there. But we moved to South Dakota 5 years ago for a job opportunity for me to be the leader of the Badlands House Band and the voice on the radio for KBAD 94.5 FM, a huge radio gig and a band leader gig. And that was what enabled me to put my dream team together, which is now the Ron Keel Band. And we never would have dreamed we would have ended up in South Dakota. And because we're here, she's alive. Because the medical care, if you're going to get breast cancer, you want to be in the zip code. It's just the best facility and care for that type of illness. And also now that the rest of the nation got locked down, we did not. We have to wear a mask to Walmart, and we can't go to the movies at the theater. Other than that, it hasn't changed a whole lot for us here in South Dakota. Certainly credit our governor, Kristi Noem, for standing her ground and not shutting down. And I feel for my friends in the business that are in LA, Vegas, Nashville, New York. Those towns are becoming ghost towns. I'm just talking about the U.S. I know you guys are north of the border. I don't know what it's like up there, but the music towns in America where I've all lived. I lived in all those towns, and I called them home at one point. All my friends there are struggling or they're leaving, and they're all becoming ghost towns. Nashville, Vegas, Hollywood. My heart goes out to all the people there that have invested all their lives and all their skills and their passion and their time and their energy and their money into living their dream, and now they're just cut off. Very fortunate that I was in South Dakota, where we still have the right to rock.
It's
love it.
One of the things, and I usually say it at the end, but I'm going to say it now because it's nice that somebody you grew up listening to and grew up idolizing isn't a dick. And I'm telling you, like, your passion to me is just amazing. I'm looking at a mic stand that if I showed it to you, you could probably pitch it and have 50 of them go out my front door. I just love the energy, Ron. It's just it's incredible. Do you think that might have been why you had the success you had? I mean, at a young age. I mean, like, you know, when we'll back it up, you know, sorry, I dropped my phone, but you played in a band called Steeler. That a lot of people don't know about. Talk about that, because I mean, you were a very young man when that. I was just 20 years old, and I do credit a lot
to three factors that have nothing to do with talent. First of all, I'm pretty smart. You know, I think I have a decent IQ. I work my ass off. I have a very strong work ethic, and I've always believed in getting up early, kicking ass until you drop, and staying up late and working. And I mean, I'm a workaholic, always have been. And plus, I've been really, really lucky. And I put Steeler together in Nashville in 1980. The winter of 80, we're closing in on our 40th anniversary. There's a lot of other Steeler news that we can talk about if we have time. That we're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year of the formation of that band. And we were the Motley Crue of Nashville in 1980. This is at the very start of that decade of decadence, when I know it was happening in Hollywood. I guess some of, Rat and the Don Dokken and some of those guys were getting their start out in Hollywood, but we had no idea that was going on. We were living in Nashville, and we wanted to put on a show. We wanted to dress up in wild clothes and do big hair and have pyro. And we had little coffee cans with gunpowder in them, and we could do pyro and the big light show, whatever we could do to put on a show. So we were the only thing like that in Tennessee in 1980, 81. You couldn't find anything like that. And I had just gotten out of my first marriage. Here I am, 20 years old, and I'm already going through my first divorce. And I wanted to get the hell out of Nashville so bad. I just said, we're going west until we hit the ocean. It was a great business move. It was brilliant, by the way, to go to California in 1981 to stake our claim and to climb that ladder up through that scene in Hollywood against bands like Rat and Crew and Great White and Dokken and Black and Blue and all the great bands that sprung out of that scene. So many more than I could mention. We went there in 1981. And literally just so I could get as far away from Tennessee as I possibly could and get away from that ex-wife. But it was a great business move as well. When we got there, we were the outcasts. We were the Nashville guys. We were not welcomed into Hollywood by any stretch. We couldn't get a gig at places like the Whiskey or the Troubadour or the Roxy. They saved that for all the big guys, Rat and Crew and Quiet Riot and Dubrow at the time. It was in between Quiet Riot. Great White was called Dante Fox at the time. So we built our following in the outskirts, in the San Fernando Valley or in Pasadena or in Orange County, all these outlying areas around LA and Hollywood, because we couldn't break into that scene. Wow. So we would go to these clubs in all the outlying areas, and we built a following. We created a mailing list, and we took care of our fans, and we put on a big show everywhere we went. And when we finally got the opportunity to play at the Whiskey, I think it was a midnight on a Monday or something. And we put out our mailing list and sent the flyers out to all our fans in all those outlying areas. And they packed the Whiskey on a Monday night. That put us on the map. Our very first show in LA, which is another one of my favorite stories, if you got a minute. Our very first show in LA. I mean, we had investors, we had financial backing at the time. We had the band and the 3-man crew and the truck and the van, and it was an expensive operation to move everybody from Nashville to Hollywood. And we got there. We did our first show in North Hollywood at a place called HJ's on Lankershim Boulevard, and we went in we put out ads in the magazines, and we went in there with the pyro and the light show and the hair and the clothes and the makeup and the big show and the choreography. There was one guy in the audience, one guy. And we did our show just like I always do. I do my show for 0 people, 1 person, or 10,000 or 100,000, doesn't matter. I do what I do. I only know one way to do it. And after the show, this one guy is in the audience. After the show, I went out to say hello and thank him for being there. And he goes, "Hi, I'm Joe Benson from KLOS Radio. Here's my business card. Give me a call." He was the guy at KLOS Radio in Los Angeles at the time who had a local music show on Sunday nights. And he put Steeler on the radio, on KLOS, all over Southern California on his local music show. And that, coupled with the fact that we were building this following in the outlying areas, really put us on the map. And all of a sudden, we were one of the top drawing acts. At one point, we were the top drawing act on that scene. And to be a part of that with Poison and all those other bands that I mentioned in the early 80s, to be a part of that cultural revolution that was Hollywood, 80s, metal, hard rock, was a dream come true. And I cherish those memories and those accomplishments. And just to have been a part of that, man, it's a dream come true. People will always ask you, what was it like? And you can't really describe it, but I'm glad I lived through it.
Well, and we get to vicariously live through it out here, because unfortunately, we're a very weird sort of geographical area. We were always starved for live music out here. I think one of the first rock shows that Dave and I can remember was 1984, Iron Maiden and Twisted Sister. And you would have thought that the town was burning down the way that some of the politicians acted. Wow. But I mean, that was a show that was like, and then from there, Guns N' Roses and the Cult and different sorts of bands. But a lot of us knew about what was going on in LA, and obviously very far away from where we were. But I remember, so I got into Keel, as probably a lot of other people did, before Steeler. And then the guitar player in my band says, "Look at this." And there was the vinyl Steeler album, and it was just like, wow. It was, I wish I had to get to see more live material from you guys. And I know you're going to tell me we can find it on your website, right?
It's from Steeler?
Yeah.
No, there's really no live Steeler, man. We should have had a camera rolling. We should have been recording. There's a couple of bootlegs out there that sound really bad. There is a new compilation that we just released through FNA Records, called Steeler Come Hell or Hollywood, 1981-82, right, which is a compilation. I think it's 16 tracks from the pre-Ingve years in LA, when we first moved to LA. And it's a really cool trip back in time. It sounds very raw and unpolished. It's obvious that I'm still learning my game, still learning how to sing, still learning how to write songs. But there's a lot of raw energy and passion. And I think the coolest thing about it is that it takes you back to those times that everybody wishes they could go back in time and relive some of those moments. And albums like this new Steeler compilation are an opportunity to do that.
I want to ask, let me ask one question.
Okay. No, I was going to say, you were still learning how to sing. And I mean, I listen to your talking voice. Your talking voice is, it's not as deep as mine, but it's fairly deep. And I mean, you were a high register singer back in the day. Is that where you started? Did you, kind of do what some of the guys did, where you started there and, I better take some lessons? Like, how did you figure all that out? Because I mean, you were no slouch, man.
No, I'm still a tenor vocally when I sing, but this is my natural speaking voice, and I call it a connected tone. I speak without blowing a lot of air through my pipes, because I do a lot of these interviews and I'm on the phone a lot. I'm a natural talker, as you may have guessed. I'm never at a loss for words. So in order to talk as much as I do, you've got to talk in what I feel is a connected tone. I'm not blowing a lot of air through my pipes. It's not a saxophone. I did have lessons right before we did the Steeler album in '83, and it was an amazing teacher, Elizabeth Sabine, the Sabine Vocal Institute in Los Angeles. She was also the instructor for guys like Axl Rose, Jizzy Pearl from Quiet Riot, Love Hate, and Michael Sweet from Stryper. I mean, we all took lessons from this little old diminutive Australian lady. She probably weighed 67 pounds, soaking wet. Really just a very small, tiny, frail, petite little elderly lady. And she would light a candle and put the candle in front of her mouth, exhale all of her air, and then hit these piercing high notes. And the flame would not flicker. She's blowing just loud, piercing notes at the candle, and the flame doesn't move. That's because she wasn't using any air, and I am not using any air at this point. When the interview is over, I'll breathe. But right now, when I'm talking or when I'm singing, I don't use a whole lot of air. And that and so much more of her technique has enabled me to stay on top of my game for what now, almost 40 years.
Yeah.
So I credit a lot of that to the training and hard work, practice, and the fact that I've never stopped singing. I believe that I'm like a shark. I gotta keep singing or keep swimming or I'll drown.
Yeah.
I don't stop. I don't take weeks off. I might take a day off every now and then, but I sing, I talk. I'm extremely active still to this day because I want to stay on top of my game, and I'm a firm believer in practice. We practice heavily in the band, and I practice heavily on my own in this room where I'm sitting right now. This is my studio, sanctuary, and rehearsal room here at the Keel House, and I spend a lot of time down here.
Excellent. I was worried that I was going to forget my question because I know this is Sean's birthday gig. He's excited to talk to you. And I want to ask this one question before I forgot. Tell me about the Black Sabbath audition interview. You were in the band for less than a year or something. I want to hear about that.
I was in the band for really probably a couple of weeks. It felt like 3 days, but it feels like a lifetime. I was doing the demos for the early Keel demos at Pasha Studios in Hollywood, where Spencer Proffer, the owner of the studio and the head producer there, had just gotten done selling 10 million albums with Quiet Riot. He produced that Quiet Riot Mental Health debut, and all of a sudden he's the hot hand in Hollywood. And he heard my voice on the demos, and he was set to produce the new Sabbath record following Born Again after Ian Gillan left the band, and Spencer was going to produce Black Sabbath. And I signed a contract. I met with Tony and Geezer extensively every day, and we talked about the future of the band. They gave me a song list to learn, and I met with their manager, Don Arden, and it was a pretty amazing experience. In fact, I just put Keel together, and I had to go tell the guys in the band, I'm joining Black Sabbath. After they'd all kind of just put it on the line for me, and some of them had moved to Los Angeles from Phoenix to play with me. Kenny Chason and the original bass player for Keel, Dave Hensarling, who went on to play with King Cobra, was our lead guitar player at the time with Mark Ferrari on the other guitar spot. So I had to sit the guys down and said, look, man, I can't pass this up. I've been offered the spot in Black Sabbath, and I've got to go for it. I can't turn this down. They understood, and they were with me. And that first show, April 7th, 1984, was to be the first and last Keel show. And I told them after the meeting, I said, look, the thing is, you can't tell anybody. Don't. This is really hush hush. I've been ordered not to say anything to anybody, but I got to tell you guys, you're my band. And they all wished me well, and they understood. But it was absolutely confidential. So I get out of the meeting. I go get in my car to drive home. And I turn on the radio, and it's KLOS radio. And it's just been announced that Ron Keel is the new lead singer in Black Sabbath.
Oh, my God.
No! You can't tell anybody. And here it is on the radio. I go, oh, shit. And so I go home. After that drive from the band meeting to my house, I turn on MTV, and Martha Quinn is on MTV announcing Ron Keel is the new lead singer in Black Sabbath. So the cat's out of the bag, right? The deal didn't work out because the deal didn't work out with Spencer. They fired Spencer Proffer, the producer, and I was his guy, and I got caught in the crossfire. But still, it was an amazing experience, just getting to hang with Tony and Geezer and being a very, very small part of that iconic thread that is Black Sabbath. And it enabled me just this past year to record an album called Emerald Sabbath, where I got to cover 3 songs from their catalog, one from each of their iconic singers. I got to do an Ozzy song, Hole in the Sky, an Ian Gillan song, Trashed, and a Ronnie James Dio song, Die Young. So I got to cover all those vocalists with an amazing array of ex-Sabbath or Black Sabbath family alumni. Vinny Appice did the drums. I mean, Vinny from Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. He's playing on Die Young, and he played on the original version. How cool is that? Rudy Sarzo on bass. And I was able to get my guitar player, Dave D.C. Cawthorn from the Ron Keel Band, in on the guitar sessions as well. So it was a dream come true. We have released a music video for the Die Young track, which I'm extremely proud of. I think that got 12,000 views the first day that it was,
wow.
the first day that it was released. I'm not sure where it's at now, but I'm really proud of that video. Go on YouTube and search Ron Keel Die Young if you want to check that out. It's probably on my website as well, ronkeel.com.
I saw the video, and it's cool. You look like the Terminator in the first couple shots, man. You look like it's just such a cool vibe. I thought it was great, and
Thank
again,
you.
Thank you. Singing
I
like
love
$1 million.
I'm really proud of that. The first video where I get to take the cowboy hat off and show the dome.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Must feel pretty good there not to have to worry about, using a ton of hairspray these days, right?
I have saved a lot of money on hair products for the last 4 years. I shaved my head when Renee was going through chemo in support of her. I was challenged anyway, and it was a matter of time, and I felt like it was not only a way to support her, but also a way to go bald gracefully for a good cause. And I do like it. I enjoy it, and I'm gonna keep it. People ask me all the time, am I gonna grow it back? I've already gone bald once. I'm not going through that again.
Yeah. Well, hey, you still got a look that's working for you, my friend. So one of the questions I always had, I talked to Douglas a little bit about this, and I know the Right to Rock was, you guys put that album together, and Final Frontier was, the one that really broke you guys. But how much of a band was Keel on the Right to Rock? Because I know it was Stephen Riley played drums on that. Is that right?
That's correct. Stephen Riley was the drummer in Keel at the time we got signed. And we went through a number of drummers that first week. When we got the deal, I fired Bobby Marks, our drummer who had been with me from Steeler. He was the last drummer in Steeler and the first drummer in Keel. And we went through a string of drummers, including Fred Corey from Cinderella, Barry Brandt from Angel, and finally Stephen Riley the day before we went to the studio. Keel was, it was already a band because we were unified with our vision. The guys trusted me and believed in my vision, and I got results pretty quickly. Within 3 months of putting the band together after the Black Sabbath debacle, we were in the studio recording our debut album, Laid on the Law for Shrapnel. And then in the summer of '84, this is literally 5 months after I put the band together, we got a record deal. So within 5 months of joining my band, those guys were signed to a major label with Gene Simmons producing. So they believed. They bought into my philosophy and my way of building a band that we all wanted to see. We built a band that we were all proud of together. And yeah, I was the leader, but Keel was always a true band in every sense of the word. And that's why during the 20-year hiatus between 1989 and 2009, when we got together for our 25th anniversary reunion, that's the reason for 20 years I never toured or recorded with a band called Keel, even though it's my last name. Right. And Gene Simmons always told me this. Gene always said, look, Ron, it's your name. Just put a band behind you and call it Keel. And there was a lot of money on the table as well. I would not do it without Mark Ferrari, Brian Jay, and Dwayne Miller. It just didn't feel right. And I wanted to honor that friendship and that brotherhood and do the right thing. And maybe it cost me some money or some success along the way, but that's who I am and that's how I roll. So for 20 years, I did not have a band called Keel until 2009. And we all stayed friends. We all talked and worked together and jammed and did sessions. We've been on stage together on various occasions. So we were still tight. We talked about it in 2008, that 2009 would be our 25th anniversary. And if we're ever going to do it, we got to do it now. It's 25 years now. We got to celebrate that milestone. So we put the band back together in 2000, was announced in 2008. Our first show was January of 2009, another sold out show in Hollywood. Nice. And from there, we went on to a number of Monsters of Rock cruise events, several tours of Europe, M3 twice, Rocklahoma, and so many other great memories. And we're not done yet. We're looking at, who knows what's going to happen next year, but we have a Keel tour of Europe in the works for November of 2021. And that'll be our 60th anniversary tour, by the way, because we all want to do a gig when we're 60. We got to do a Keel gig when we're in our 60s, right? I mean, come on. It's got to happen. So, yeah, I'm up for the challenge.
It's funny, Ron, we've talked to a number of people, and what's kind of cool now with the new technology is that you can track, like, I guess it's similar to what you had record sales back in the day. If there's a specific area or a certain record radio station that was playing your records, well, you want to go tour that town. But now you can track it digitally on your YouTube, on your website, on various other areas that you can track where your fan base is. So is that why you're looking at the European tour? Do you have a lot of folks over in Europe that are really big Keel fans?
We do. We've been there several times. We did the Frontiers Festival last year in Europe. We've maintained a good relationship with the fans from all over the world because of those Monsters of Rock cruise events. On those cruises, you're going to get fans from all over the world. You get probably 4,000 people on the ship, and they are a captive audience, and they're hardcore rockers. They're spending a lot of money to see the shows and to spend time on board the Monsters of Rock cruise events, and then they'll go home and they'll tell all their friends, what their favorite band was or what they saw. So it's keeping that worldwide word of mouth is still, you can track your numbers and you can do your statistics and all that stuff, but that word of mouth, those people, those fans, man, they're still your best promotional asset. So we've maintained a good relationship with them. They know when they come to see Ron Keel, whether it's Keel or the Ron Keel Band, they know I'm going to give them everything I've got that day. I'm not going to mail it in. I'm going to go out there and give everything I have to entertain people, and that reputation has done me well. So, but yeah, we've got friends in Europe, promoters that just really, they want Keel, and I'm okay with that. I would prefer to, I don't even know how to say that, because the Ron Keel Band is not a side project. It's my entire focus. It's my life. 5 years, a lot of money, 700 shows, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of miles. And a lot of these guys had my back through the whole, and not the guys in Keel did as well. The Keel thing is not a career. It's not a moneymaker. It's not a business. It's a brotherhood where every year we want to get together and it's kind of like a bunch of buddies on a fishing trip and talking about the good old days,
Yeah.
And Mark Ferrari, Brian J, Dwayne Miller, and I, we love those opportunities to put the old band back together and just to celebrate. We often lose money on those shows because we want to do it. We want to get out there, and like I said, we want to do a show I want to do a Keel show in my 60s. I know I'll be doing shows, whether it's Ron Keel Band. I'm going to keep doing this for a long time to come. We have a long range plan, and I'm still inspired by guys like Sammy Hagar and Steven Tyler and Rob Halford, who are still delivering great product and great performances and great vocals and songs. And they're 10 or more years older than I am. So as long as I stay healthy, stay in shape, and keep my fire burning and that passion, I believe that I can do it at least another 10 years as well.
So I want to geek out just for a second. You can see over my shoulder. Obviously, I'm a Kiss fan. I grew up as a Kiss fan.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
Well, and you obviously had quite a connection with Gene Simmons. So the first question, if I don't want you to talk out of school, he's listed as executive producer in The Final Frontier?
No, he's not.
So he was the producer?
Absolutely. He was the producer of The Right to Rock and The Final Frontier, produced by Gene Simmons.
So there's a couple bands up in Canada that he actually signed to his Simmons record label. One of them was out of, I want to say, Niagara Falls, didn't go too far. But they all talked about, what basically it was Gene's way, but they learned a lot because of, what the pedigree that he brings. What was it like to work with him? Because obviously I'm a fan. Nothing would surprise me, good, bad, or indifferent about Gene Simmons. But what was he like to work with?
He was amazing, actually. And we weren't signed to Simmons Records. Gene was hired by our record company to produce our albums. So a whole different ballgame. We weren't working for him. He was working for us.
Right.
And of course, that's the way a producer has to be. When you're producing, you're the director of the film, like Steven Spielberg. You're the director, the producer of the album. It's his way or the highway. That's the way it's got to be. He's got to have the last say. He's got to call the last shot. That's expected. And that's the way it should be. He's in charge. He's the coach of the team. He's the Bill Belichick, so to speak. I don't know if I'm a football fan, or I was until this year. But the coach of the team. He calls the plays. And it's your job as the quarterback to execute the plays. Now, Gene, when we got signed to our record deal, the president of the label, Danny Goldberg, handed me a sheet of paper with a list of potential producers on it. And it was literally a who's who of the heavyweights in the business at that time. It was Michael Wagner and Max Norman and it's just Tom Werman. And God, the list goes on. And Gene Simmons' name was on the list. And it just popped off the page to me. And I'd like to take credit for this brilliant business move, but it was just, I'm a huge Kiss fan, and Gene's the only guy on the page that's also a rock star. He is what I want to be.
Yeah.
He's a musician, a songwriter, a singer, a rock star.
Businessman.
Hook me up with Gene. And they did.
Yep.
They set up a meeting with Gene Simmons and I at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And at the time, things were happening so fast for us. We were still in the studio mixing Lay Down the Law, our independent debut album, when I got the call to come back to LA and showcase for the labels, got the deal. And all of a sudden, we're literally, it was weeks later that I'm in this hotel room with Gene Simmons, and I didn't have any new songs. We had just finished an album. We hadn't started writing yet. We had one rough idea that we had jammed on in the sessions for Lay Down the Law, and it was a song called The Right to Rock. I put the cassette tape into Gene's boombox. There's no vocal on the cassette. It's just the band jamming the riff. I put the cassette tape into his boombox, and I sat there across the hotel room. We're sitting, two beds, and he's on one bed, I'm on the other bed, and we're sitting there talking, and boombox between us. I sang The Right to Rock to him, just spit in his face, sang it. He hit stop. He says, I'm going to produce this record, and we're going to start Tuesday, really. Because he was in a rush because he had to go on tour with Kiss for the Asylum tour, which started in the fall of 84.
Right.
So he didn't have a whole lot of time to mess around. We had to get, if we wanted Gene, we had to do it now. And we didn't have any new songs except The Right to Rock. I went home that night and wrote 2 songs, Electric Love and Back to the City. So we had 3 new original songs. We redid 3 songs from the Lay Down the Law album. We recut 3 of those. And Gene gave us 3 of his songs, which ended up on that Right to Rock. It all happened so very fast. Within months, January 28th of 1985, that album came out and became instantly the biggest selling debut album in A&M Records history. We sold 90,000 records the first week. And
wow.
Really, all of a sudden, we had arrived. I give a lot of that credit to Gene. And yeah, it was, getting back to your original question about how was he to work with, he was amazing, dude. He taught me so many lessons that are still with me to this very day. Some basic musical things that I don't know that other producers, maybe they all know the same stuff or not, but I learned it from Gene. How the bass drum and the bass guitar, those patterns have to complement each other and work together. Boom, 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 boom. Just how to, he would watch that bass drum and he'd watch the bass player's fingers and he'd make sure that they were in perfect sync. And that's the foundation of your music right there. How to record and execute the guitar parts, how to capture that attitude in the studio. So many lessons. Gene was one of those guys that he, like me, he wanted to be prepared and have a game plan, and he wanted the band to be well rehearsed and ready to record when we went in the studio. So he was big on preparation, but he was also big on throw it out the window. If you got an idea, let's try it. And if it doesn't work, we'll know. So he was fearless when it came to improvising and adding a breakdown section or a bridge or doubling a chorus or kind of building the song as you go in the studio, still with your game plan. But be prepared, but be flexible enough to take a chance on a new idea in the studio if it strikes you. All of these lessons that he taught me have carried through to every session I've done for the last 35 years, ever since. And not only that, but as a friend, a mentor, somebody who would go to bat for us and push buttons for us. I credit Gene with a whole lot of that early success that we had in 85 and 86, and still treasure that relationship. The last time I saw him a couple of years ago, I was on the radio doing my DJ gig at a radio station here in Sioux Falls, and Gene came into the lobby, and I saw him walk in. I put the headphones down, I walked out, and he didn't say a word. He just reached out, grabbed me in this huge bear hug, tight, strong, just this man hug. It was like neither of us said a word. To me, that said volumes. I think Gene respects me because I never gave up. I always stood my ground. I always followed my own vision, my own path, and that's where we parted ways after the Final Frontier album. He did let me have a lot of creative control on that Final Frontier record in '85, and kind of, Ron, this is your baby, and he understood what I was trying to achieve and how I wanted to diversify and not get locked into any one style of hard rock. We had a lot of different kinds of textures on that record. Because the Night, the first single, which is a power ballad, cover song that was written by Bruce Springsteen and Patti Smith. You got metal like Rock and Roll Animal, No Pain, No Gain. You've got commercial rock like Just Another Girl, Tears of Fire. So there's a lot of different sides to that Final Frontier album, and I credit that to Gene trusting me and my vision. So yeah, I have nothing but great things to say about him, and eternal gratitude for what he did to get my career kickstarted back in the '80s.
Wow.
Well, and you know, it's funny because that album, I mean, and to me, so you had United Nations came out after, obviously, but for that album, for me, you nailed it. There's so many different twists and turns on it that, like, Because the Night, I remember the first time hearing that, and I'm going like, wow, that's kind of a bit of a curveball. I mean, it had the Keel sort of, you know, flair to it, but you guys just weren't grinding power chords on it. There was a bunch of different, you know, things to it. You know, you mentioned Tears of Fire. In my opinion, that's one of the ballads that to this day, I think still holds up to anything that was written, you know, past, present, or future. That's my humble 2 cents.
That's a favorite of a lot of fans. We recut some of these songs last year on the Fight Like a Band album. You may know that. We redid Right to Rock. Tears of Fire, the new version of Tears of Fire, to me it's incredible. And finally got to sing it properly after all these years. I got to take another shot at it. Because the Night, Somebody's Waiting. We have some new recordings of some Keel classics already done for the next album, and may release one of those as a single, a song from the Final Frontier, by the way. I'm teasing the audience a little bit here over the next few months while we await what happens in 2021 and we kind of settle in for the long, cold winter. We'll be releasing some new singles and some new tracks, one of which is a new version of a Keel song from the Final Frontier by the Ron Keel Band. So everybody just, hopefully they'll keep up with us on the website, ronkeel.com, and on social media. All the links are there at ronkeel.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook as long as Facebook lasts. We'll see about that. There are a lot of other great social media platforms as well, and you can find them all at ronkeel.com.
I would like to take some marketing classes from Ron Keel. That's what I would like to know.
Well, I took them from Gene Simmons. I mean, Gene was a great teacher.
All right, fair enough.
You know, check the RonKeelShop.com, and there are at least 40, 50 items. We don't have. I actually do have.
There's a store. Keel. I saw it. There's a store.
I actually do have a Ron Keel Band lunchbox around here. It's really.
You get the garbage can.
Anything's fair game, right?
I do not have a casket or a pinball machine yet, but I'm working on
it. Well, you know, but we have a friend out here. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my buddy Maurice O'Clang. We did a thing with him the other night. Maurice is the same way. He's like you in that he gets this kind of, there's this new sort of thing that's taking place that if you don't jump on it, you're going to get left behind. And you've been all in for a few years, but I mean, you're killing it. I mean, I'm sitting there going, when's the line of Ron Keel, you know, sales methodology coming out? Because, you know, it's everything you're saying is like, it's not an oversell. I'm sitting there, I'm into it.
I am too.
I see why you're successful.
You've got to diversify in this day and age. Nobody's selling millions of records anymore. You have thousands of fans and not millions of fans. And hence I host a radio show. I have a podcast. I wrote a book. I do a lot of different stuff that whether it's creating, writing, a lot of sessions, a lot of TV and film work. I mean, just this year, Facebook, and I shouldn't be dissing Facebook because they just licensed Cold Day in Hell, a Steelers song, for a marketing campaign. So Facebook is using my music in their advertisements. Things like that have been a true blessing, but you've got to keep putting those hooks in the water. You can't just make it off your shows. The common misconception these days is that if I'm not gigging, I'm not working. Exactly the opposite is the case. If I'm gigging, I'm on vacation. If I'm not on the road, then I'm working. I'm working the business, the radio show, the merchandising, all of the other angles.
You have a song on The Simpsons, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
I did have a song on The Simpsons, The X-Files. Probably, I think we're over 100 TV and film placements at this time. And they still keep coming in. You know, Men in Black 2 is a famous one where Speed Demon is in the mailroom scene in Men in Black 2. Been very fortunate with those TV and film placements. Just this last year, we had a couple of big ones. The show Supernatural, and there was another one. I can't remember. Usually, if it's a country song, it's on the jukebox in the bar scene. Or if it's a metal song, it's when somebody's getting killed or chopped up or whatever. But I'll take it, man. I'm really proud of those opportunities. They have the Facebook thing. The Facebook using Cold Day in Hell for an ad for their women's wrestling groups or something like that. I shared that on my Patreon page. Really proud of just a fluke, because some of these people that grew up listening to my music are now in a position of power. They're the executive at this company or that company, or they're producing a movie. That's how the Men in Black thing worked out. I think the producer of the film was a Keel fan and said, hey, man, let's put Keel in this movie. And it wasn't like we pitched it to them and said, hey, man, please use our song. They grow up and they say, hey, man, we need a metal song for this. Let's grab Speed Demon from Keel. So I've been very lucky in that regard. And I do believe that in this day and age, that's enabled me to be able to make a living and to continue living the dream, because a rising tide lifts all ships. I'm not going to be able to make a living from any one thing, especially performing, because when we're on the road, all that money goes to my band, my crew, my trucks, my insurance, the production, the smoke, the effects. We have a big production that we take on the road with this.
That's awesome.
And my guys get paid, and I get what's left. So, you know, it's really, like I said, that's when I'm on vacation. When I'm not gigging, that's when I'm working.
Ron, we want to be respectful of your time. And I know we've been on here just for an hour now. This is Sean's birthday wish.
That's right. We got to let Sean get to his birthday party.
Exactly.
And I don't know how long people can possibly listen to me rattle on, but hopefully we'll get some new listeners. A lot of my fans have heard these stories over and over again, but I'm glad to share them with you guys on the show tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity. Keep up the great work, and happy birthday, Sean.
Well, thank you, Ron. And I do have one more question, because I really have been thinking about this. There's a friend of ours up here. His name's Andy DeVoe. Andy, he's the road manager / front house guy for Theory of a Dead Man. So he's out working those guys, and he's not working those guys now. He put something on our page called what is it, Dave? We do gigs.
We make events.
We make events. Basically what it is it talks about how it's not just the frontline guys. It's all the people that are affected by music not happening right now. And I'd be interested to get your take on that, because you just mentioned your guys get paid, you get what's left over. And people don't understand what goes into putting a show on.
I did see that on your page, and I did last week. There was a unified effort to go red, so to speak, and to reinforce that hashtag, we make events.
Yep.
And I certainly support all of my friends and everybody that you don't realize how far that chain reaches, from the people that drive the trucks and set up the gear, that do the catering, the photographers, everybody in any aspect of the entertainment business has suffered in some way. I feel almost guilty that I haven't. People, usually the interviews, and I do a lot of them. I've probably done 200-300 interviews to promote this new record, like this one here. And how are you dealing with this? Are you okay? Actually, I've had one of the best years of my life in terms of, and it's a lot of those factors. The Facebook marketing campaign, when they licensed my song, the fact that I've been able to do 23 shows. I toured Australia for the first time ever, the Motions of Rock cruise, the 5 headline dates at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, and all they're telling you about the super spreader event at the Sturgis Rally is bullshit. I think there may be 200 positive cases and 1 dead, from the rally. We ride motorcycles. We drive RVs across the Midwest in the middle of winter. We're not scared to take, it's all about risk management. And you might believe in ghosts or UFOs. You might be scared of those as well. But I personally am not. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid not to live. So don't keep me alive by killing me. I do respect and appreciate what all the other people in the business are going through, and my circumstance is really just dumb luck, man. I ended up in a place with a skill set, and I have worked hard. I know a lot of people don't have the opportunities that I've had, especially here in the Midwest, hosting the radio show, being able to license my songs to TV and films, a lot of other revenue streams that don't come from gigs. But the question now is, where do we go from here? Is it ever going to normalize? Are we going to be able to recover in some shape or form? I don't want to say yes or no. I don't know. I don't have crystal balls and I can't read this thing. But man, I know that these big events throughout my life have changed everything. The JFK's assassination when John F. Kennedy was killed, and I was just a kid, but it changed everything. 9/11, nothing's been the same since 9/11.
No.
You got to get groped by the TSA. Everything's different since 9/11. It's never going back to the way it was before 9/11. It's not going back to the way it was before COVID-19, because COVID-19, I believe, is not going away. It's going to be the fear. People are going to be wearing masks for the rest of their lives now. It's not going away. They're not all of a sudden going to just take the mask off and say, okay, everything's fine. The vaccines, I don't want to get into that whole debate. How do we find a way to survive and continue to do what we do? And I do believe that some of us will. I was talking today to my good friend Brian Vollmer, the lead singer from Helix.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Brian is one of those guys who will not stop. He's a lot like me in that regard. Brian Vollmer from Helix will not stop. They just released a great new song and a new album, and he's finding a way to make it work. He's still fighting the good fight, so to speak. I don't know how this thing is going to play out in 2021. Everybody thinks that after the election or after New Year's Eve that everything's going to be fine. I hope so, for everyone else's sake, not for my sake. I'm going to keep doing what I do, regardless if it's one person listening or 10,000 listening or buying what I do. It's who I am. It's what I do. I have no choice just to be who I am and to do what I do. But my heart goes out to everybody else in the business that has been affected. And there have been some people who have been able to weather that storm. Photographers, videographers. I know I've spent a shit ton of money this year on 4 great music videos. Red, White, and Blue. We have a new music video coming out in a couple of weeks for Don't Misunderstand Me that we filmed live at the Sturgis Rally. So I'm keeping some of these videographers and the video editor guys, I'm paying for their lunch. So some people are finding ways to survive and continue and carry on. I just wish everybody, no matter what business you're in, especially the entertainment business, because it's tough. I wish everyone the best, and hopefully there will be more good that comes out of this. The fact that we will find new ways to entertain people and express ourselves. We'll find a new love of our homes and our families, and a new closeness, a new appreciation for platforms like Zoom, which brought us all together. Man, 6 months ago, I didn't Zoom. Now here we are.
I couldn't even friggin' spell Zoom 6 months ago.
Yeah. So we learned a new way to entertain people and interact, and let's keep doing that, man. That's all we can do.
Well, I want to say this. This has been an absolute treat for me. You are a true gentleman. I think you're freaking brilliant. I always loved what you did. Just getting to talk to you is just, we learned a lot here tonight, Ron, for sure.
Well, I hope your viewers and listeners enjoy it as well. I've enjoyed the conversation and getting to know you guys. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and get on with your birthday celebration. Let's do this again at some point, maybe next year. We'll get a 2021 catch-up update, and we'll look back on this conversation and see what's changed at that point.
The only thing we're going to ask for you, when you get one of these bad boys, you got to put it on your social media for us.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm in. I would love to.
Yeah.
I would love to start my day with coffee out of one of your mugs, man. I'm in, and I will wear it. I'll drink. I might drink more than coffee out of that bad boy.
Thank you so much, sir.
I'm working on that, brother. I'm working on that right now.
Good for you, man. It's my turn. Happy birthday, Sean. Thank you, Dave. And thank you, everybody who's put up with me through the last hour plus.
RonKeel.com.
RonKeel.com.
Thanks, brother.
Never rock.
All right. Thanks.
Peace out, brother. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Pleasure.